apps make a lot of effort to kind of give an overall exposure. So they actually take you to different professors. They call some people for lectures. They take you to field trips. They take you to some industry visits, etc., etc. That's again building up a lot of network. The professors you meet in the whole process. So we had a lunch. I remember it very well. We had a lunch, some kind of a formal, official lunch with the different PhDs, doctor professors, research group heads, etc. And what we were supposed to do was we were supposed to go with a plate of bun or something and go around and keep telling, hey, I'm working in this and this. So then if that person kind of you click a contact with the other person, say the other person turns out to be the director of say structural engineering or some kind of a structural engineering professor, and then you start you get a link and you start discussing with him, saying, sir, I am interested in this work, and he's like, oh, guess what? I have my colleague working in this field, so I just let him put him in contact with you. You can take it from here. So that's a big awesome thing to happen to you. So this is very good. The networking is really amazing. Okay, now personal application, sending emails to professors. One thing is it's very direct, so you can actually put forward your ideas, your specifications very directly to a professor, and you have a more wide range of research interests you can get, because sometimes structural interns cater to only a few like science, math, biology and stuff like that. But suppose you want to go for psychology or some kind of a psychology, electrical connection or something of that sort. So it gets difficult if you are very different in your research interest. Sometimes structured interns don't cater to these. So what you can do is what personal applications give you is they give you more freedom to actually get what you want. You can search for as many profiles as you want. You can go email them and talk to a professor, tell them about your interest, etc., etc. But it's got its own downfalls, is that it's rigorous, it's dicey, and it might use a little bit of luck. Okay, it's here to say, but yeah. It's not very systematic, so you really don't know if your application is actually being read by someone. Sometimes the professor is just busy and he's angry or he's sleepy or whatever, and he doesn't read your application well. And so the entire effort you put in terms of contacting the professor kind of goes waste and unrewarded. So it's a trade-off you have between your freedom, your rigor and your interest. So just if you want to go for mailing, be sure that you're actually approaching a very active professor. And some ways to find an active professor is suppose you're interested in certain field, say electromagnetics. Now Google search for the recent symposiums, recent conferences in electromagnetism, and you will have a list of people attending the conference, list of people presenting in the conference. Take those names and go to those Google search for those names, and you'll know what work they're doing, and they're active because they're actually present in the conference. So you can use these kind of techniques to see which professor is active, which professor is actively working even now in that field, etc. So that's one way. And then when you're writing an email to him, do not send a standard mail like I am XYZ or XYZ and I am very capable, blah 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 blah. Professors are excellent in sealing out such mails. They just open your mail, which they hardly do. They open your mail and they can just read like one line, and they know if it's a template picked out from somewhere or if it's an actual genuine letter. I was pretty shocked, but my intern professor and I had this discussion someday, and then he said, it just takes me 2 minutes, and he was a new professor. It was his first year in the university, and he said, just 2 months into my professorship, I've been getting like 1,000 to 2,000 mails per month, and in 2 to 3 months, I became an expert at sealing out mails and just discarding them, like round-of-the-mill mails versus genuine mails. So So do not think you can trick a professor. So I think it's really important that you have a very structured email. So you can start with some very catchy thing, like if you think you've done some research or some paper or some presentation or some course in something and you found something very interesting, start off with that. See that I was reading through your webpage, etc., etc., and I found this very interesting, and my views on this are, and you can go on saying, but I personally feel that this is more applicable to this, and blah blah blah, and then you can end up saying, you know, I have proved myself to be a very capable student of IIT Bombay. I have been involved in this research, extracurriculars, and I have proven my leadership in this way, and I have given to my institute, and I would like to get an opportunity to try and explore under your expert guidance through this opportunity or something. So be genuine, be very genuine in your emails, and don't make very flashy statements like, you know, I think that you are the best professor of this world, and it won't work. I mean, he knows he's not the best professor in the world. So don't make all this shit up when you're writing the email. Be sincere, be simple, and be to the point. Do not go like circuitous, like, you know, I have been not thinking, blah blah. Just be straight and simple. That works best. Don't spam. This might be very shocking to you, but if you actually compose 10 emails for 10, and when you're composing an email, go to the professor's webpage, read his interests, read a few papers of his. It will hardly take you like 2 to 3 hours to do this per professor. Read up everything about him. Be sure you know what he's doing, and then write an email. And if I'm not wrong, if you send like 10 sincere direct emails to 10 professors, 10 departments or 10 universities, and per university do not send more than, like if you have a branch, suppose civil engineering of MIT or civil engineering of University of Toronto, you send a mail to this particular department. Do not send more than 2 or 3 emails. Like if you find like 5 professors and 5 different like suppose 2 professors from structural, 1 professor from transportation, and 1 professor from fluid. Do not send the same mail to all of them. I mean, they discuss. They're professors, they're like colleagues, so they keep sometimes, you know, at lunch table or something. If this internship thing comes up and they discuss saying, you know, I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to fund a student from India. I got a very interesting email from him, and the other guy says, "Oh, guess what? I got the same email." Yeah, so this is a very genuine case. So it really spoils the impression of the students who are coming from the college, and it not just hampers your acceptance, etc., but it actually gives a very bad impression of the entire college, and they become extremely skeptical when they're actually seeing the mails again. So be genuine, and if you're sending an email to a university, be sure that you're sending not more than 2 or 3 professors of similar interests. Do not spam all the professors of the department. I mean, that will take you nowhere. And try limiting your sincere efforts to 10 universities. After that, you get a little desperate. I know that, but be sincere at least for like 10 universities. And see that your qualifications are good enough for that professor. If the professor is having only PhD students, you can't expect to get an intern there. It's difficult. So try seeing someone who's more varied, like some professor who keeps a few PhDs, a few postdocs, a few master students. Yeah, he's a more potpourri kind of person. He actually deals with different levels of study. So it's more possible that you actually get an intern under him. So that's one thing you can keep in your mind. And okay, which country do you want to work? Which country do you want to intern in, happen, etc. So like now, generally, conventionally, you have like the US, Europe, Canada, and now you even have Asia coming up. Like last year in my batch, Asia actually came up big time. We had lots of interns from Malaysia, lots of interns from Singapore, from Taiwan, and they were really good. From the feedback I got from my friends, they were really good research interns. So Asia is also coming up big time in terms of applications, and they're very new. So there's a good possibility that you get selected into Asian universities also. And with US, generally you have like try applying. Okay, so you can apply to some 7 excellent universities. Apply if you do not have, if you don't think of getting somewhere. Apply to 2 or 3 not so famous universities with an active research, like in Europe or in some US universities. They're not very famous, but are active. So in that case, you have less competition, you have more funding. Try searching for university research groups funded by the government, because lots of like at least in Canada, I saw that like most of the research groups and professors were funded by the Canadian government. So that's like a surplus. So you actually have possibilities for the professor to take you up, etc., etc. So see for that. Anything so far that you're not fine with? Now, how do you check for the universities? Yeah, good name always works well. So if you're like you have no clue where to start from, and you just want to try just try it out of the blue, you can do one thing. There's a thing called US News, and it gives like the rankings of universities. You can just you can just go for department-wise rankings of universities, and go to, like, see the university, see the professor, see your department. Go, like that's one of the first steps you can take if you have literally no clue about what you want to do. And yeah, okay. So in many structured internship profiles, you have recommendations required by your professors, someone you have worked with, and recos are one of the most influential parts of your application. If you have a good reco, a really strong reco from a professor, well, it's half or 3/4 work done. So it's really important, a good reco. And so try working. So in fact, you don't have to do a project to get a good reco. So if you have a class, you have a professor taking a class for you, and you've been genuinely interested, enthusiastic in his class. You've been asking questions. You go to him with certain doubts. You give radical new ideas to him when he's discussing something in the class. You say, "Sir, I can do this." So these kind of small things which professors actually notice in students and they remember them, these will actually make the professor get a very good reco. So you can, if you think you've had a good rapport with the professor, if you've asked him questions, you've taken advice from him, you've always you've gone to him for any academic advice you wanted, you can go ask him for recos. And if you have a really good rapport, I mean, one thing I advise you against is, do not go to a professor and say, "Professor, I am interested in this. Try acting nice with him. And then you end up saying, "I want an internship or a recommendation to me for a foreign internship." That really pisses professors off. I mean, they don't know who you are, they don't know how you work, they don't know how efficient you are, and how can they take your word for their friend or colleague. And so that's one very annoying thing, and it mars your reputation as a professor. Do not do that. So if you have been active with a professor, you've actually worked with him, you've done some project under him, or you've constantly given him ideas, taken ideas, discussed a certain topic with him, and then you say, "Sir, but I'm actually interested in this field, and I would like to work in this field for the summers. So it would be really very helpful from your side if I could get some person working in this field." And professors are very helpful, but they think that they're very responsible. So they do not like to spoil their acquaintances and friends and colleagues with the bad impression we take. I mean, we go there, we don't work, and that really spoils their network. So professors are very prudent when it comes to this. So make sure that you actually work very sincerely with your professor before asking a question like this, because you definitely get a no answer. I mean, you get no as an answer most of the time because of the question you have. Yeah. So that's, and professors have like amazing amazing contacts. So professors have like really good contacts. contacts. You'd be surprised if you knew that your professor right next to your classroom knows like 10 profs from MIT, 10 profs from this and that and this, and they have very active collaborative research happening. So professors are one of the best places to start with if you really are interested in a field. Go talk to him, take his advice, take his view, discuss it with him, and if he thinks you're genuine and you are actually genuine, you would end up getting a good recommendation from professor. Professor will talk to his friend and say, I have a student, and if professor directly recommends you to somebody, then it's 100% surely that you're getting into it. It's 100%. There's literally no speck of doubt there. So, like, have a good rapport with the professors, discuss with them, talk to them. They're really nice people. They're very friendly, surprisingly, but they're very friendly. Okay, so you have any more questions about the general geography of this? Anything more you want to ask? Anything you had in your mind? Okay, so I'll just tell you very briefly about my profile. Yeah, so I think I just told a little bit, but I'll just add to it. I'm from civil engineering, but I've been interested in physics, and so I got a URA for my project on biomechanics. So basically, I was working with mechanics, etc., of biological cells. I just told that mechanics is just about force interactions, etc., and use that concept on small cellular level. So it's not a big deal. It sounds complex, but it's very usable. And that was my project in third year, second semester. But I personally feel that you guys can use your third year first to your advantage, because most of the structured interns take out your resume and etc. in your third year first semester end, right? That's what mainly happens. I mean, by the end of your third year first semester, you start applying. You start applying for your third year interns. So your third year first semester becomes very pivot in terms of so whatever you do in your third year first sem pays more for your intern, because most of the structured interns come out in third year first. The applications come out in third year first semester anyway. And so I think I would have been a little better off if I had done that a little earlier. And yeah, my research intern was in University of Toronto, and I again worked in a very interdisciplinary field. I was working with nanotubes, so mechanics of nanotubes, like interaction of the nanotubes with a polymer, and how is the force interaction. If you apply a force, how is the strength of this nanocomposite, etc., etc. So it was very physics, material science, civil engineering mixed up thing. I was in fact working in the material science department of University of Toronto, and it's actually computational modeling at the end of the day. I'm very interested in that. So yeah, it's been a little interesting from my side now. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. If you have any questions about any specific topic, yeah. Maybe like it louder.
Because the topic of financial support is the very first one.
Okay.
What is the first phase? It should be the first.
You learn first in training now?
No.
Placement?
Yeah. But in my circle, all the guide actually first should put their interest to the professor. And if they already have an idea that people they require stipend and all, so they themselves, if they're interested in things, they will feedback in a reply. If they don't, you can ask them.
Pretty much. So do not mention that you need money, you need financial support.
So the interest, that is what is the
That's very good. So generally, out of like 70 times out of 100, professors do not face financial issues. If they really genuinely like a student, they will jugarify some funding for you. So that's never really an issue. It's like if you're very bright and all, I don't think funding is really an issue. Funding generally comes up pretty well. So just make sure that you portray to him that you're genuinely interested in the whole thing. Money should not be talked about, funding should not be talked about in the interview. few more questions. Yeah.
If you send too many professors and you get accepted by to say next.
You're lucky, first thing. And yeah, next question.
Do we actually are the morally correct to say one of them that I'm not?
Yes, you are morally correct. You have two options. One thing is say I'm extremely sorry. I've already. I mean, your reply came a little late to me. I already committed myself to somebody else, and I'm already working on that. So I could not. I'm very sad that I'm not able to use this great opportunity with you, etc., etc. And you can say that I can work online with you. If I can't make if you're very really info about that thing, you can work with this intern and you can work online with the other intern as well. You can tell her that if it's like most of the works if it's not a lab kind of a thing, then you can tell him or her that you'll work online, you will constantly be in touch with the professor and give back to him and get back to him. That's one possibility. And otherwise, if you think you can't manage two things together, you can tell your professor that you have a friend. You have a friend who's very whose profile matches with you and who's very perfect for this. So I will forward his resume to you. Please consider it. And you'll be someone's best friend. Yeah. So yeah, that's it's everything's right. All works well. So that come by placement. Please, so you are in second, so you have to be confident. You have the structure in your yeah.
Is there any specific size for that? The placements have been coordinated.
I mean, keep placement you keep getting not it will be come up soon. Yeah, start soon. So you will have a lot of IAS. Yeah, you have those things coming up. You have profiles written. If it's structured, it will be mostly through internship. Internship kind of tackles all those structured stuff and brings it to the. That's anything more that you want to ask? Thanks for the patience, and I hope it was better useful. And now, just
So, most of the big part was
please maintain silence. I mean, in fact, he'll be more useful than me because he's done a better job. He's more impressive because it's just a Sophie exam, so he's more studied.
So, basically, I will discuss upon the part of the exposure and the learning you get in an internship. I mean, after you have, most of the people have like doubts about the traveling, finance, and the accommodation there. So, it's a tough job and it depends according to your professor if they are providing you accommodation in the university or not, the stipend they are giving, and also some of you have food issues like Indian or the veg is a problem. Like most of the countries have good non-veg food out there, but if you are vegetarian, it's not much of an issue. You have to search around and you will get it. So apart from all this, the work culture is the best you will experience there. Like the labs, they have a good infrastructure, they have all high-tech equipment to work with, and which you probably won't find it here in our institute. And most of the universities have good funding for the projects, so they will be ready to spend around thousands of dollars for the project easily. So that gives you a great chance to handle the amount of funds and dedicate it to a good output. And apart from all this, like the people out there, it's most of the units have interns coming from all parts of the world, so the atmosphere is multicultural. So you get people from China, all other parts of Asia, US, Europe. So it's a good time to interact with all those guys.
Like something that you think is very important as a Sophie that you think is difficult, that you're a Sophie that you can't. I mean, it's been more difficult because you're a Sophie. Something on that line.
Yeah, that's right. So as a Sophie, it's difficult to enter into any of the structured interns, and also most of the professors know that you won't have much of a background to do as a Sophie. So always try to structure your resume, like do extracurriculars, do some projects. Now on in the summers you must have done in the first year. So try to highlight on the
I mean, the acting has to start at the end of the first sem or third sem, right?
right.
Since you've not done any kind of project before, how much impact is it?
So what you can do is in the second year, you can like work for the first semester, like work for 2 months into the semester on some particular project. You know, do good work, and then get to a professor to write a recommendation letter. That will have a heavy weightage. And the other thing is that, especially for Sophies, don't look for foreign interns. Basically, because his point was really valid in the case that you really don't have experience either in research or in the postgrad itself. So what you can do is, in fact, apply for good university in India. For example, you can go to IISc, which can rank as good as any other university in the world, and EIFR. So if you're into research, then you can apply to these universities, and this will in fact boost your CPI, boost your resume for I wanted to so you can boost your resume, and then in your third year internship, you stand a better chance.
And also I've seen that a good CGI and some projects can easily back some and besides that, like most of the people you try for interns abroad, so some of them end up like giving high expectations in the resume, but to not do that, it really disappoints the professor, because when you reach there, you are not able to meet their expectations. So instead, do some project in the institute itself in summers, build some resume and have some lessons from the professor. That will help you a lot.
Okay, so do you have any questions for me?
How important the criteria is CPA?
So it's not much of importance. They always look out for the experience. Like in the first year, if you have 8+, it's a good CPI. Apart from that, if you have a project in hand, it's a good resume in that.
Your work shows.
Yeah.
Your work speaks for itself.
For a good CPI, it will always boost it. It never hurts.
But then,
Don't get worked up or scared or whatever with that. Try maintaining a good CPI. The devil keeps coming up everywhere. So, but it's not everything. Like if you have a very sound and impressive project experience, that's possible.
So like if you have a little low CPI, so you can justify what other work you have done in the extracurriculars, in the projects and elsewhere. So if you have done too much into extracurriculars, you can rank on-core intern and then critical intern. Some of them do get some critical interns.
I forgot to mention this. So I remember. Yeah, if you end up doing a job intern in your third year, don't think it's the end of your research for you. I have known people who've done Schlumberger as an intern, and they have gone to MIT. So it's not the end of everything. Just you can always tell them that you can tell them the story of how you were interested in research and all. So don't get worked up that you have to get a university intern in your third year. So it's not very bad.
but then it would be beneficial for those people who are very particular. They know it. They want to go ahead and do research later, MS or PhD. So there's those two speakers waiting. So please, let's be good. Yeah, thank you.
So in my case, like mine was keeping in that good. But apart from that, I did some projects in the technical side, like in summer time, what in ITSP, and also throughout the year I was working on these projects like Bahar XP. So these are some projects which was a lot of dedication to a project and your studies.
There's a very simple way of telling what I want to tell. CPI. Is it greater than 8? If yes, then you have PT cell which will take care of you. If you are an elect or CS, CPI doesn't matter. Now, otherwise, if you are still greater than 8, you have DART, and thing called MITAX, which will all take care of you. That's fine. Now, is it less than 8? In that case, you have two options. You have a good resume, you have a bad resume. Right? So, if you have a good resume, you can start tapping right now. If you have a bad resume, you should probably go to a professor in the department you want to work in. Work under him for 2 months. Ask for his recommendation at the end of 2 months, so that the professor should be good enough to, chill enough to give you a recommendation after 2 months. And then your resume becomes a good resume. Then you can again app. Basically, the deadline for apping is like roughly January. You should have got a reply by January. That means you have to start the worst case at around November. But again, this is only if CPI is less than 8. It's greater than 8, it's fine. Someone will take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what I think what it is. So, greater than 8 people, you just need to put in a real effort. I mean, how much greater than 8? So I just add that if it's greater than 9, I mean, you'll be done by September or something. So, greater than 9 people, DART, almost certain they'll take you. MITAX is just next after that. So, yeah, 9 plus DART is done. MITAX 8.7 to 9. It also depends a lot on where you are applying, because they, I think, allow you to apply for some 6 to 7 projects. I think Shrita would have talked to you about MITAX a lot. So MITAX also, I think it's in the higher range. Then I think
so. If you want to make money in the intern, take back some money.
Yeah, MITAX.
Then MITAX is
wonderful.
The option.
It will give you a lot of money.
DART is like you just survive and come back.
And French internship, I mean, you may lose money.
Yeah.
So France, they do have a lot of options, but they are really, very squeezed about funding. They don't give too much funds. They just give you bare minimum. And I lost money. So France. I think in these places, especially for DART people, you need to contact professors and everything. France, in most places, they do have programs or something. Like Ecole has a program, Ecole Polytechnic. They'll come again. So they'll probably come to PTCell. They came to PTCell last time. I don't know if they'll come again or not to PTCell, but they will have a program. They have that every year. And other universities, I don't know how you got by that your mailing.
Yeah.
But France, they have lots of programs. So just search through universities in France. Couple of good universities in Paris itself. ENS is a very good university.
So in France, you have two kinds of things. You have the écoles, which are like the higher research education things, and then you have institutes which are only for research. They don't take in students and everything. They take in as interns. So you can try to get into one of the écoles, which is very prestigious, or you can apply to research institutes. India is like the French government's official research institute, and they pay well. Écoles don't pay well. So if you get into a research institute, then you get enough to take back something.
Okay. So coming to the money part, which we have to presently discuss. So tell about you have been and you have done your internship in physics, and you have a high-end CPI, and you might have done a minor in math, and might have done a summer second year summer at TIFR. So tell about your profile, how you built it, and can you stress upon that you are in MSc Chemistry, but then how did you
But
make
you
that
don't stress upon
giant...
at all.
Don't stress upon MSc Chemistry. Stress upon the giant leap that you made from Chem to CS. So like, ask me about how, if suppose some people here are interested in a interdisciplinary work, then how do they go about it?
So you need to have some research experience. Coursework counts for nothing. As long as, if you want to go from one area to another area, then coursework doesn't matter. Okay, I've done some courses, so what? I have so many people else who have done the same course. So you need to have some research experience, especially if it's theoretical. If you're applying for theoretical topics, then yeah, it's much harder because funding is low in theory, and if you want to get in, then you need to show that you have good mathematics is sound enough. Unless your math is sound, no one will take you in theory. Experiments.
I'm also in theory basically.
But you have no idea about it.
Yeah, but so basically, he asked me to tell me about how I started. So basically, I probably changed department first of all from aero to EP. So I was a little more curious about physics. And secondly, I'll say, I started basically with went to a winter school something. I think winter schools or these places are good places to meet people, and they have like renowned speakers coming from Caltech and something. I went to one of gravitational waves, and there I interacted with people from Caltech and Stanford and all those. So that was a good experience, and they gave us good guidance about how to approach if you wanna work in and learn about physics. But so you need to plan accordingly. Like if you want to do a research probably after 4 years, then you need to start right now and look out for areas where you are good at. He said that mathematics is very important for theoretical people. Experiment people, if you want to do something in experiment, then look out for people in the departments, because our institute has people doing good experimental work. I'm not sure about physics department, but so other departments, electrical people, they are doing a lot of good work, experimental. So I think a good place to start would be first look in the institute. Second year people can really good look at that, and I think for third year people it might be a little late. So you need to desperately look up somebody and start working on that problem and get that good.
Interested.
Yeah,
Just don't do it for the sake of it.
because
That's for a resume point.
on an intern in a placement would be not that important. Similarly, like a company intern in a uni application won't be that important. Don't just mix. You want to do research, then really take it seriously. Otherwise, if you want to go for a placement, probably doing a company intern would help you.
Questions?
What is the situation for
Sophie, I
Which
think
department? ECS, no problem.
CS people can go for foreign, but elect also I don't know. But yeah, other than look in institute. It's better you
So
work in
what
India.
happens is CS people, Sophies go for foreign interns, some of them. Elect who are at the high end of CPI go for CS interns abroad. But the opportunities for foreign interns for Sophies is mostly through CS. Others, you just don't have enough experience to take.
You don't even have courses. Like you've just completed 1 year, MA 105. Nobody will take that as seriously. So it's better you work in India. TIFR, very nice place. Wonderful place. Work there. He worked in TIFR 30 also. But so it's a very good place. TIFR, IISc, again a very nice place. And people will take you seriously. IIT in India is a big deal. So you just say I am an IIT student and I am interested. IISc is a very nice place. Then there are a few more institutes I know basically about this. IISc, they are coming up. They are also good. There is one in Pune, then Mohali. So, and institute and of course it's there. If you have some good rapport with some prof, if you like this course, AFT. But if you like his course, if you enjoy what he's doing, then institute is also a good place. So for second year people, other than CS, if you're not really clear on programming, I suggest work in India. It's better for you. Because you can actually build up on that and do well in the third year. So
The importance of SLP, URA.
yeah, so SLP is always very helpful because it will give you a clear-cut line. supervised learning. Fifth, I think it's for third year. Second year people can take URA.
Second year students can take it, but it's only in particular departments. Like aero has it, chemical has it, chemistry also has it. So the CS has it as a research topic. Okay, so there is through the course of that particular program, you'll be doing some research work under professor in a particular field, and it will be just like a course, but then it will be a research topic. So you'll get credits for it, but also in the resume you'll also have a point of doing some good research work. So it will really count, and the recommendation from that prof, if you've done good work, will add high.
That's usually you get a good grade.
Yeah, I mean,
All these things.
SLP, yeah, it's also, if you are a dual student, take a SLP. Mostly get a 9. I don't see anybody getting less than a 9. So it adds to your CPI also. So yeah, SLP, I think from an intern perspective, it will help you in a sense that you can write out something that I am working on this, some real research work. Maybe it would be just reading a paper, exaggerate a little bit here and there, but okay. So, but it would be okay, because the professor, especially if it's somehow related to what he's doing, he'll take it seriously. So, SLP is a very, very good thing, because first of all you have something to write about. Then you have some prof who you can ask that please write to him about my work. So, third year people, you should take SLPs and do a little hard work so that professor here is also impressed. He will write something good about you. So SLPs are nice. Same I think for URA. I'm not sure about URA. Harder to get. Yeah, it's harder to get. SLPs is in the department, so you can just register and get. URA is a little harder. Professors are not keen for URAs, but I think CPI again there is important. URAs also. So probably URA you can even see the INSTI website. More info about URAs.
You have spoken about how your France.
Fine. Okay. Anyone interested in department other than this?
Interns other than
their department.
Not all
In terms of whom you are, like studying in civil engineering. Anyone like that? No. Fine.
Which department? What do you want to work in? Okay, so physics, do you know minor physics? No? Done any course other than, not yet. Second year? You are in second year right now. Okay, so I think probably a good thing for you to do, maybe, I think second year elect people have an INSTI elective next semester. In the fourth semester they will have an INSTI elective. You can take a course in something like physics department, in an area where you are interested in. I think one of the best bet is astrophysics. Lots of people take that course as an INSTI elective. And if you are actually interested in astrophysics, take that course. Because as he said, you need something to write about. You cannot write, I am electrical and I want to work in astro because I have an won't work. You need to have some background about it. So for second year people, it would be a good start to have some courses in your resume for applying for outside your department. It might not be a minor, but some additional courses other than your department.
So, if you hate your department, then you should like a department more than you hate your department to actually shift to doing things in other departments. So, if you don't like your department, doesn't mean you want to do research in other departments.
Yeah, you need interest.
Yeah, you need actual interest to do research in other departments.
Yeah, so
Hating a department is not a good enough.
Yeah, take it seriously. I mean, if you are not doing what you are learning more here, then whatever else you are doing, take it very seriously. That should be your bread and butter. Maths, physics, whatever it is. So take that other part, at least that part seriously. You have to be somewhere you have to be serious. Otherwise, get a CPI. Yeah. Easiest. Yeah, question.
Yeah. Can you stress about how you went from being an intern to being accepted for a master's program at India?
Yeah, he's been accepted for the master's program, being an undergrad right now. he has still not completed his his
So
credit requirements rather.
I was working with my prof, and one day he asked like, "Why are you doing chemistry?" I told I don't want to do chemistry. So I told I do something about it. After like say 1 week or something, he told, "I have a meeting for you. Come and attend it. These people might accept you for a master's program." Just went, spoke to a couple of guys, and they told, "Okay, you can come and do your master's here. I don't see why you're wasting 2 years doing over there. Chemistry, full fine, I'll come. Can you give me funding?" Told I think about it, and yeah, told they give funding. Huh?
Must have worked really hard.
Yeah,
No, working hard is not important. Working passionately.
Yeah, getting the right.
So I used to go to my workplace at around 3 p.m. and then I used to go to my workplace around 3 p.m. and come back at around 4:30. I never worked for more than 1.5 hours because I needed to sleep for at least 12 hours to think. So it's more about what you work on and how much you can contribute. Doesn't matter if you work hard or not. Your professor should understand that you have taken the topic seriously. As long as that is there, nothing else matters.
not an exam, your CSU.
So I did some discrete structures in second year. Then okay, I thought I'd do some CS. Then I did an R&D in my second year, second semester. Then I did some math courses in third year. Then I did 2 R&Ds last semester. Then I had a Google intern in second year. Worked under Professor Pathak in first year.
See, we built it up. We started from first year.
So basically, I've avoided chemistry in my resume. Even the only line chemistry comes is when what is my education. You avoid.
And also your scholarship, you get a scholarship
Yeah.
for being an MSc Chem guy.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's how that's what I'm saying. The second year you're probably a good thing.
I mean, research experience counts.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. No one asked my CPA. I don't want to tell it out.
Any other questions specifically or doubts you have regarding that? Yeah, for the
It was a program, it came through a program, PT Cell, but it was a very detailed application. Statement of purpose, recommendation letters, grade sheets, everything. It was like a mini app for a PhD. But I think if it comes through PT Cell, I think your job is done. You don't need to search for it, just need to apply. So if it comes through PT Cell, it's pretty easy thing. Only you need to have all your documents in place. But because other interns like that, you need to search and get a positive reply. That's a lot harder to do. So yeah. I think they float projects. Ecole is more of a physics-based university. So they took a friend of mine who was in electrical and he worked in a physics lab also. So I mean, you need to have some. He has been working with some professor who is doing something related to physics of semiconductors and all that. And he is also doing a minor in physics. Again, so he's also like shifting from electrical to physics. But he's been doing that for last 2 years. And that's why he was able to get that done. So it's important that you have some background about the other fields you want to work in. Yeah. Interschools are basically, there are 2 weeks. They have some talks. People usually come there to, there are like people they are working together in 2 different countries. So there are people in IT Bombay and somebody in Caltech. So usually they organize these talks, covering wider areas. So like it's a winter school in gravitational waves. So they will be speaking about theory, theoretical gravitational wave research, experimental, computational, everything. So I just applied this Indigo School on gravitational wave. It happens, I think, every year. There is this one institute for people enthusiastic about astrophysics, IUCA in Pune. there are a lot of people working on that, and I think it's the Ayuga who organizes these winter schools. So I think it will be a good starting place, because if you think you are interested, it's a good place even if you are, oriented towards computation, want to work in computation fields, because most of these talks they stress on computational aspects of the things. Theory and all is covered very briefly. So there will be openings. Look out for them. Search on the net.
Anyone in CS interested in doing something in computer science? No one? You are? So there are a lot of winter school opportunities for things in CS.
Yeah, that's
This FSTD CS conference which has workshops all around it. So basically, in general, in any field, it's like you have a conference. 3 days before the conference, you have a workshop. 3 days after the conference, you have a workshop. These workshops are aimed at like third year undergraduate school, first year postgraduates. So you can just look at any conference. Let's say there's a conference in theoretical physics. There will be workshops around it, around that date in the same venue. If you hear a conference, just look out for the workshops that will be conducted around that time. These usually happen in Mumbai.
Physics people there is this international center for theoretical physics, ICTV of TIFR. They have this all throughout the year. Just go on their website and just check. They definitely have. I went in third year also. I went in second year also. They have these. So TIFR has the ICTV. Just look on the website. They have it also.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I got it. Maybe because my prof was the organizer. That's why I got it. Anyways, so yeah, ICT. Look out for TIFR. TIFR has this because they collaborate with a lot of people. They all have this all throughout the year. They will have on semiconductors, condensed matter, and even for non-physics people, they do have. So they don't restrict you, only physics undergrads can apply. Third-year undergrads definitely will look. Then enthusiastic second year people, they look for it.
Some people who are conflict between a coach or intern at university. Like they're interested in the department. What it is a real life intern. A core intern, core company intern versus a uni intern.
Uni intern.
Yeah.
So university interns say impacts X on getting a core job later. Then, in that case, if you do a core intern in some company and you apply for a research institute, impact is 0. There is some impact if you do a research intern because usually at the undergraduate level they won't let you do proper research. They let you do simulations and those kinds of things, which are reasonably there even in the companies. You have to do some simulations, so it's not a bad option if you want to finally end up doing a core job. But you have some idea that okay, maybe I might want to do research later. So it's not a bad option. But if you want to do research later, then the worst possible option is going for a company for it.
Yeah, I mean, for elect people, I think both are. I mean, for elect people especially, it would be better to do a third year intern in 4 years than go, because electrical is a lot more department in between engineering and there is a lot of work for theory people also. I mean, in R&D especially, like electrical you can definitely look up at uni-winters and still go for core jobs. There they will count. But I think for apping, uni-winter, third year uni-winter is better.
More like a safe option to go for a research intern in third year.
Yeah.